Thank you, Chairman, and thanks to all of you for what you do for this cause. It actually seems to be a bigger and bigger problem all the time. I think as we step back, this problem just gets bigger. That's why I was so pleased the other day, as Senator Lankford mentioned in another hearing we had, that Secretary Kerry was at least using religious freedom as the term he was using. I think his predecessor often talked about the freedom to worship, seldom, if ever, talked about religious freedom. I was pleased with all the answers, and most importantly, Ambassador, pleased with your answer. In fact, when I looked at your testimony, I just started going through and circling the times I saw religious freedom used before Senator Lankford even brought that question up, and eventually I decided I was satisfied that the religious freedom was coming up as what you are focused on and what you do. As you know, I supported your nomination, and I was pleased to. At the time we talked about the special envoy for Near East and Central Asia, that the only way we get it passed was to leave some flexibility to the administration rather than shall appoint. It says may appoint. That was August of 2014. I don't see an appointment yet. I'd like to hear from you that you're advocating for that, or don't think you need it. I think I heard earlier you had more than you could do. We've given you a real opportunity to get somebody to help you in this critical spot. What are you doing about that?
Again, the internal deliberations I need to take a pass on, but let me just say the following. Before you came in, I talked about the fact that we have a very, very strong team on Near East who are working day in and day out about these communities and these countries here. If the the White House is going to make a decision, should it select a special envoy, it would certainly be of help to us. We can use, as I indicated in response to Senator Graham's question, there are a number of specialized urgent tasks that have to be developed that if we had the staff, we could really do something about them. So that would clearly be in addition to it. If one of the challenges is I don't believe in the legislation was funding for the special envoy. If I'm right about that, here again, the robbing Peter for Paul on this. If it's a value added, anyone specializing on any of the urgent countries that you've heard about or regions would be of immense help to us.
Well, I think in all the things that the State Department faces, if any of them have grown dramatically in need in the last couple of years, it's this one in shifting resources. Also, you know, if you do have this incredibly capable team that you just described, surely one of them would benefit from the imprimatur of special envoy. That's all you have to do. If one of them's that good, if one of them's not that good, I'd suggest you replace them with somebody who is that good and make them the special envoy. This should not be a budget discussion. This is either important or it's not important. You can find the money to do this if you want to do it. You can let somebody go who you've currently got working on these issues if they're not good enough. If they are good enough, you can make them the special envoy and let them carry that into every room with them where they're trying to get something done. And on Pastor Abedini, as Mr. Perkins mentioned, last year we did see a good result of the discussion on Miriam Ibrahim from this discussion. As you mentioned, nobody's been more vigorous in trying to pursue this issue than Mr. Seklow and his group. I just find it hard to believe in all the things we've done with the Iranians that this has really been the kind of focus it should have been. We've given them millions of dollars of money back that we've held on to since 1979. Just asking them if they'd talk to us for another 60 days that was the last deal made. That, you know, that had to be an interesting proposition for them. Just continue to talk for 60 days. We'll give you several $100 million back we've held on to since 1969. And in that process, we couldn't get one person out of prison that nobody in this country believes should be there.
I will say this, Senator, Ambassador Saperstein is, within weeks of being sworn into office, took a personal interest in Saeed Abedini's case, not only willing to meet with the family, but working on multiple fronts, because there is these periphery discussions that take place, and we're not disclosing anything that's not known. Frankly, and I want to be careful on this, but frankly, the discussions help keep him alive. I think we have to realize that just the discussions, this hearing, helps keep him alive. Comments from the President of the United States saying something about Saeed Abedini keeps him alive. Your testimony, your statements keep him alive. These sideline discussions keep him alive. It doesn't answer the question on how we got to this place in the first place. In other words, we were going to sit down with the Iranians, and we didn't have some kind of preconditions. It's not just Saeed Abedini, but get these Americans out of jail. Having said that, there's nothing we could do about that right now. But what we can do is this: insist that apart from any deals with Iran, any structured arrangements with Iran, that Saeed Abedini, his family, are reunited, as other Americans need to be from Iran. And I do want to say again that Ambassador Saperstein has taken a unique and important interest in this case at a level that we have not seen previously. There's been support within the ambassador's office and his predecessor, but this is at a whole new level. And a lot of that's because of relationships and willingness and a commitment to this issue, which we're very appreciative. And the fact that the president met with Naghmeh Abedini, as someone asked me, how significant is that? They said, well, they're from a different political party, the other side of the political aisle here. And I said, well, it's the President of the United States talking about someone who's held captive in Iran. It helps keep him alive. And right now, until he's released, we got to keep him alive. Thank you, Senator.
I appreciate that. I wonder, Mr. Sekulow, since the ambassador probably can't talk about this, and by the way, Ambassador, I'm very pleased to hear others working on this have a sense that you're headed in the direction that I thought you would be. Whenever I stood in the well of the Senate and his members came up and asked, why are you voting for him? I said, because I think he's committed to get this job done, and I'm glad to hear that. I do wonder why in a country that appears to have so much at stake, or not, I'm not sure how serious the negotiations are, but why the message of the level of good faith this would create doesn't get through to them. When the President of the United States is doing this, why, do you have any idea why he is that important to them?
Well, you would think as a confidence-building measure in discussions like this that they would release the American, just as a confidence-building measure. But I think we are looking at that through our eyes and not through the eyes of their own experience within the regime that is controlled in a different way. They have it's not a real judiciary. It's not really an elected legislative body. It is run by the Revolutionary Guard and the Ayatollah, and that's the reality of what we're dealing with. And I think we tend to look, Senator, it's puzzling to all of us. Why would you not release this American? We actually saw the documents upon which charges have been made against people like Saeed Abedini. We've seen these in other cases too, and they'll say they're an enemy of the state because of their religious belief. They do the same thing with the Baha'is. It was said earlier by the Senator. It's the same kind of thing. Why they picked on the American, I hope it's not as a political bargaining chip, but right now if it's involved in the political process and that's helping him keep him alive, then my job as his advocate is to do that. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you all.